Meeting at 7:02 p.m. Welcome.
Thank you.
We've gotten roll call out of the way. Hopefully everyone's had a chance to glance at the September 16th minutes. Just as a reminder, we did not have any minutes from October. We did not have an official advisory board meeting in the month of October. So we are approving the September minutes. Is there a motion?
I motion to approve.
Thank you.
Second.
Thank you. All in favor? It's approved. Are there any members of the public who would wish to be heard at this time? Seeing none, we will move on to new business. All right. Not super creative for this month's icebreaker, and would very much like someone else to take on an icebreaker for next time. The question this month is, what is one thing, since we've last come together as this group, what is one thing that has been giving you joy in your daily life? Big, small, real, imagined.
One thing since when?
Since we last had a meeting together, so September.
I think I started talking about this a little bit with you guys, but I left my job. And I think I talked about it. Yeah. And my husband went back to work, and I get my retirement for, we'll see how long, an indeterminate amount of time where I'm gonna hang out with my kids. And it's awesome.
What?
Yeah. I'm
When did
really
that
excited
start?
about it. Beginning of October. So, yeah. I'm like, everyone's like, being a stay-at-home mom is awful and hard, and it is. But it's also awesome. And I don't have to work right now, so it's great. That gives me good.
Oh, you're working plenty. You have little ones, don't you?
Yeah. I have just under 2 and just over 3, so. Yeah. It's full time.
I can go next. My 9-year-old just finished, was part of the Longmont High School music theater production of Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, the musical. And I've become a bit of a backstage mom, and I helped sew the costumes for all the little Oompa Loompas, and it was good. It was exhausting. It was good. It was good. I know we're talking about you. You're good. Go get ready for bed.
That's awesome. Well, this will tell you something about my kids being at a different stage of life, but my eldest daughter has gotten me into Chapel Roan.
Oh, God.
The artist.
I mean,
and
Sorry.
I don't know, the NPR Tiny Desk concert, I highly recommend it. She was on SNL 2 weeks ago, if you watch SNL, and yeah, my daughter's super into it. So she and I are rocking out and I'm learning the HOTTOGO dance and all that. So yeah, just bonding with my tweens over super inappropriate lyrics. It's been fun.
One thing that's been giving me extra joy lately is I do take a dance fitness class a couple times a week, and I thought that I was doing it to stay active and healthy and get my mind off of serious things, and lately it's just become the thing that I look forward to really get out of my head. and it is joyful. It's, it's upbeat music and a lot of people who don't care what they look like flailing about in space, and I'm into it. Anyone else doing anything that makes you feel alive?
Come on, Susie.
Oh my gosh, so I just got back from Tampa for the National League of Cities, so I'm pretty fried right now. It was a lot of information overload. It was good. Something that brings me joy at this present moment is next week we're off for a week. I'm a school teacher, and they are acting like they are off this week. You guys, I had 3 that fell asleep. I'm like, I know I'm not that boring. I'm like, please stay with me. We have 4 more days.
Okay.
So yeah, we'll have that week to rejuvenate and get going before the holidays kick in.
What grade are you teaching? Don't you teach 3rd grade?
I do. I teach 3rd grade bilingual.
Oh my God, I can't imagine 3rd graders falling asleep.
Yes, and yeah, they look like one of them came in their PJs and they had like the bed head. I'm like, you literally just rolled out of bed and came to school. So yeah.
Wow.
Joy.
Wow. Well, mine is, I think it was in between the last meetings, but I planned a quick weekend to go visit my brother in New York, which makes me happy to go see him and see a couple shows. So that'll be a nice little getaway coming up right after Thanksgiving.
What did you, Tracy?
What show did you see? Oh, sorry.
Well, I will be seeing a new musical about Louis Armstrong, and another one that's it just came out, and then there's another one. I can't remember the name, but it sounds kind of quirky. But it's about 2 robots who fall in love, and I don't know. I rely on my brother a lot because he's in the industry. He's like, this could be quirky, but I like all the actors. I'm like, whatever you say, we're gonna go see it. So.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I can't really choose between either one, so I'm just going to use 2 because one that just gives me joy every day. It's all the time, but just seeing my daughter growing and learning and being interested in things is just this awesome journey. Just to kind of see that like awe of everything in the world through a little kid's eyes. So that just is a daily thing for me, but kind of the same thing for my job. I find joy in it every day, just being here and working for the library and working with our staff.
Thank you. All right. Next up, we're going to talk about art in public places. Kat.
Wait, Jamie, do you want to volunteer for next month?
Yeah.
I can do it.
Oh, awesome. Let's put Kat down for December.
Unless someone else is dying to do it.
I'm not dying to, but I haven't done it, so I was going to volunteer. But if you have one, go for it.
I'm happy to put you
I can
down
do
for
the next one.
January
Yeah, perfect.
and book 2 months out. That was so
Excellent.
proactive. Okay.
Gives you plenty of time.
Yeah, I'll think of it by January.
You'll probably think.
Thank you, Kat.
I mean, that one writes itself with New Year's resolutions.
There you go. Kat got 2 in a row, so.
We're in February.
So, okay, yeah.
Yes, the
Are we on to art?
segue is that art brings us joy. So now we're going to
That's a
talk
good
about
one.
art in public places.
So the art in public places installation, and I don't know if any of you have been in here to see it, but it's right in here outside of where we meet here physically, but just down the hallway. We have a new installation that came from Art in Public Places, and the art piece is an altar that honors two young men that were shot dead back in like early 80s here in Longmont by Longmont police. It's a well-known story. If you don't know it, you can look it up. But and so the art piece was created, I want to say around 2019 or 2020, and it was there was an exhibit for it at the firehouse, and then it was in the museum, the Longmont Museum, for a very short period of time. And that's been sitting in storage looking for a permanent home. And they approached the library before I was here, and the timing wasn't right for the library to have it. And so they approached it again when I was here about 6 months ago or so. And I thought it'd be great to have, just because it's certainly a difficult moment in time in Longmont history, but it produced some good learning opportunities for Longmont. Out of this incident came El Comité, which is an organization here that some of you might be familiar with in Longmont, to support Latino community. They do a lot of great things. That was definitely a product of these two Latino men that were killed. So it lives here now, and I'm very proud of that. There was a dedication hosted by Art in Public Places Commission a couple weeks ago, I want to say, and it was very powerful because some family members from one of the young men were all here and hadn't seen the artwork. Some of them hadn't seen it ever, and I can imagine how overwhelming that might have felt to see that. It was, I didn't know all the relationships to him. One of them for sure was a sister. Two sisters were here. So it was just very impactful. Maybe there'll be something in the paper about it. I know the Art in Public Places people did a press release on it, but you find yourself here at some point, come down the hallway, where the meeting room is, and you'll see it. You can't miss it. It's 3 pieces. It's 2 ends that, it's like a memorial, right? The middle is sort of an image of them, and there's just a lot of great, the art piece itself is good, and then, of course, there's a write-up, just like in a museum you would see, and then there's a QR code you can scan to learn about the artist and all that. So I wanted to mention that just because I'm really happy to have that here, and I think it makes sense in the library being a place, hopefully, of dialogue and conversation, that it should be here, so we can learn from these things. So just wanted to share that.
I have a couple of questions. Can you say anything about the impulse to bring that topic back to the library? Like, was there something that made Art in Public Places reapproach the library?
Yeah, so when they first approached the library with this, one of them is, yes, it's the library, but also we probably have the most space for a permanent location in the city, right? Being a big building. I mean, it's very practically, there's a space thing there that we probably have. My understanding is when they approached the library before with the idea, it was right in COVID, and it was right after George Floyd. And so there was a lot of certainly conversations and hard things going on with police, and since this incident here involved police, I think there was definitely some hesitation. And I'm kind of speculating. I don't really know, but the answer at the time was like, I don't think we're ready to have this here now. And so I think enough time has passed, and they approached me with it, and I do feel enough time has passed, and now we can. I don't know what I would have done if I were in the same position back then. Just with a lot of heated things going on around police, and I don't know if you want to present more of that, but now I feel like the timing is good. to have that and talk about it. And I feel like that's come around a lot as far as police. I mean, I know, I'm not saying 100%, but back then, like the whole defunding thing, and there was just a lot of hard feelings towards police, and for very good reasons. I just think now I feel like we're in a better place where we can talk about that stuff and talk about what has been learned and where we can still learn, and what better place to have that conversation than here. So that's where I was coming from.
I really hope you quoted somewhere on this.
Well, I was asked to provide a quote, and that was pretty much something like that.
Okay.
I don't know if it'll get.
Okay.
My mother-in-law is on the board, and she told me about it last night and how appreciative she was to you, John, that it seemed like that you were very easy to work with, and very, honored to have it, and that it didn't seem like you had much hesitation about it. And they were I know Art and Public Safety was very, very excited and touched that you took it on.
Yeah, thanks for sharing that. It's true. I had no hesitation. I think when they approached me with a couple of commissioners and Art and Public Places administrator were anticipating a conversation and to kind of basically start the conversation, but the meeting ended with me saying, "When can it get here?" So, I mean, there's just no question in my mind. I don't, which I'm happy for. I mean, it was easy for me, and I'm glad that it's been well received.
I haven't seen it yet. I can't wait to see it.
It's stunning. It's an art piece. It's stunning.
Yeah, I'm so excited. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Is the artist still around?
I believe so, and I don't know if they're local.
Yeah.
There's something that tells me they might have been out of Denver or somewhere else, but I don't remember how that came about. I haven't looked up the story in that detail, but I could. There's just a QR code right out there.
Oh, cool. And the process was really, you were just able to give an enthusiastic yes. You didn't need to have a staff meeting about it? Or...
I didn't feel like I did.
Okay.
I can understand back at the time when they first approached that, it was a much different time. I mean, just 4 short years ago, but it was a very different time. And so I just didn't feel like I needed to do that.
Awesome. Thank you so much for sharing that with us.
Yeah, I thought it would be good for the board to
something to be proud of. Okay. Board membership update. So it is that time of the year where we are going to talk about the membership of this board. We do have an update in that we will have 2 slots that we are filling this round. And shall I make the announcement or would you like to?
I can do it, but let me transition downstairs. I just got my family upstairs, so I'm going to get away from them. Give me 2 seconds.
Yeah, and I will apologize for my faux pas and not clarifying beforehand who is going to speak first.
Oh, it's like watching a Spike movie. You know, with the floating? It's really cool.
It's a long day.
I feel like an unnecessarily dramatic pause.
That was pretty cool. That's okay. We managed.
Sorry, my son had a music recital that went until 7, so I've been, switching gears. Yes, so I've decided to step away from the board for now. I already talked to Jamie and John about it. Mostly I'm doing it because I think it's the right thing for the board to have some fresh blood. I think you probably can tell that I'm really frustrated, and I've been on the board for over 5 years and have not yet succeeded in my major goal, which was to get more funding for the library. And so I just feel like I'm not bringing a very creative energy to this problem right now. and I want to approach it from a different angle. So I have been thinking about this for a while, but we've been like down a person for so long. You know, I didn't want to leave the board in a lurch. So in seeing that we had, 4 applications for the one position and looking over the applications and feeling like they were all pretty cool, I felt like, okay, this is a better time for me to step away. And obviously Jamie has a few months now under her belt as president, and I haven't done much to help with that, but I didn't want to leave her in the lurch either, stepping into that new role. So it's a hard decision for sure, and it's definitely not just like, I'm too busy, because I've been too busy for a while. It's really more about, like, I just don't think I'm being effective in this role right now. And I really do care about the library, and I will continue to, like, show up to events and come as a member of the public when I can. And if you guys need some institutional memory and want to chat about anything, I'll do what I can. I don't have much memory left at this point. But I kind of feel like I'm beating my head against the wall, if I'm honest, just sort of saying the same things, So I feel like we all deserve some new perspectives, and we have the opportunity for that with these fresh, interesting people who have showed up and shown interest. So, I definitely don't rule out joining again in the future if I'm allowed, and working from different angles on this issue. So if you have ideas about how someone can support your work in any way, I'm all ears, and hopefully can share my contact info, but I think it's time for a changing of the guard.
We very reluctantly accept Kat's resignation. I did speak to Kat about staying on through December, and she graciously agreed. So the goal is in January, when we are bringing in what we thought was one new member, we're just going to bring in the 2 new members and make that change at that time. So hopefully Kat is with us next month. I know you almost always join virtually, but I always want to bring treats for people. So we can discuss later, but if you could be here, we will be treats.
I did already have the thought, I should really try and get my butt there in person next time for the last hurrah. So yes, I will do my best. It is more likely because my classes are ending in a couple weeks here, so I think it may lend itself to slightly more mobility. And I always will take treats. So.
Excellent. I will find out what you like. And I also shared this with Kat privately, but there's so many skills and strengths that Kat has brought to this board just in the short time that I've been connected to it. And when I came in, actually when I first attended a council meeting to start sniffing around how I wanted to be involved in the city, my first exposure to the Library Advisory Board was watching Kat and our former chair, Cynthia, give comment to council about our feasibility study that was done. So her contributions to that, her ability to stand up and speak out whenever necessary, her tireless advocacy we're leaving a hole that I don't know how many members we're going to need to fill, to be quite honest. And the institutional memory, right? Kat is our institution, pretty much. But I also hear and appreciate your wish to make space for new energy, new perspectives. And so along those lines, I have this thing that I've been chewing on for a while, and I may have mentioned it here, but I did want, it felt like the right moment to bring it as a formal question or proposal to this board to see how we feel about it. And then if it feels like something we want to pursue, then we need to find out the how and the when and all the logistical details. But the idea is, I'd like to propose that we amend our bylaws to expand the size of this board from 5 members to 7 members, starting in 2025. So in my dream world, this could be figured out by July 1, and we would maybe try to fill another 2 seats by then. Yes. Were you pointing?
Just
Oh.
if Susie had.
Yes, Susie.
I just wanted to thank Catherine for her work on this advisory board, and I've been the liaison to other advisory boards, and I've mentioned this to John and Jeff and even others on council, that you all are a very active board as far as what I see in regards to advocacy, participation, showing up, and even having, okay, these were our goals, these are our objectives, and this is what we're pushing, and and really holding my feet to the fire. And and I appreciate that, and so don't feel like you haven't been successful, because you have, and this is what I would like to see in an advisory board, an advisory council. And there isn't a whole lot of power and authority you have, but just advise. And and having had the experience to work with you all and share, and you all sharing what is needed and really articulating where the gaps are, that allows us as council, and even conversations that I have with Jeff and John, to how can we look at this and move forward, and how can we move the rest of council forward. So there are some ideas in the works, and it just takes a long time. Like, I did not realize, I'm now coming into halfway through my 2nd term, and we're starting to move the needle, and it just takes so long. And I get frustrated with that process. Like, I want to see the change happen immediately, and it often doesn't, and it feels like we're not making a difference. But I really feel like this group you all are a very active group, and thank you for your work and your time and dedication to this. So, yeah.
Thanks, Susie.
Does anyone else have a comment or question?
Well, I do. So we've talked a little bit, but what led you to think like going from a 5 to 7 board? Like, how will that potentially impact things?
I think it started with me noticing or just feeling that we were a small group, and I don't know if it was hearing or seeing maybe members of other advisory boards or commissions, either at council meetings or but getting the sense that there were boards that were a little bit larger than ours. But most recently, what made me want to form this into like, oh, maybe we should really do this, is quite simply that at a population of 100,000 people, with the level of diversity in our community, it feels impossible to recruit 5 people who are representative of that community. And when I think about the topics that have come before this board since I've been involved, and the things that we're looking at in the future, and listening to John and other library staff talk about expansion, talk about staffing, talk about ways to be more responsive to the community that we have now, it feels that having that diversity and representation is even more crucial. So, for example, we were not flooded with applications for the one spot that we promoted. But what we got were some very strong applications from kind of one group of Longmont residents. And we talk a lot about making decisions to improve the library experience for all Longmont residents. And I don't see all Longmont residents represented in 5 people. It also kind of stinks that we need, like to reach quorum for a 5-member board looks a little bit different, perhaps, but it just seems to leave us very little wiggle room. So those are my thoughts. It's mostly about diversity and representation. That, we're advising council on the direction we want our library to go to serve 100,000 people with very different needs and very different levels of access. So that's it. And I think there's precedent. I think there's another board or more out there that has 7 members.
I definitely think those are really good ideas and rationale, for enlarging it. I think my only concern is for most of my 5 years, we've rarely had a full docket as it is. So, it's aspirational. I love it. And I also think it may take a while to build the momentum, but that doesn't mean we shouldn't shoot for that.
Can it be listed as a range? Can it be 5 to 7? Does it have to be hard?
Other boards
Because
have ranges.
I really kind of agree with what Kev said. The fact that we have a shortage right now. We tried to fill 2 spots in the spring, and we were really lucky that we got a very good application, but we got 1 good application. I just think that then if we have it listed as that it has to be 7, then you kind of put in that quorum has to be 4. Mm-hmm. And so then we're kind of in a pickle.
I do think that it would behoove us to step up our outreach in filling any additional seats. Just from the past couple of rounds, I want to learn more about what we can do as board members to get the word out in more targeted or more impactful ways. So yeah, I definitely hear what you're both saying, and I'm not saying it would be easy, but I think it's worth trying. And if we are able to kind of live in more of a range, that would just be something to keep working toward.
Yeah, I mean, I have had numerous conversations with people about joining our board. I even had a conversation with one of the assistant city managers about advertising about open board positions. Mm-hmm. And so I don't know, until it gets to a critical place, they kind of don't spend money on it. Because I had seen in the spring, yeah, that's a good idea, Susie. I had seen in the spring where they had been advertising in online newspapers for critical board openings, critical ones, not all. And we were not considered critical. And so we were not part of that. And I was curious about it, and I asked her about it, and basically to kind of, it takes a certain level of need before it gets targeted. And I said, well, what about just open enrollment period in general, open application season in general, like throwing some advertising behind that? And, I don't know. I mean, the budget is so strict in a given year. It's something that has to kind of be planned for 2 years in advance. I don't always know how much wiggle room there is there. And so it's kind of on us then. And like I said, I've had a number of conversations with people, although not with anybody that Susie just mentioned. So I just would be really apprehensive about putting it in the bylaws as hard and stone. And also, I agree with you, Jamie, about the diversity thing, but I think you also have to keep in mind that this is an unpaid volunteer position. And I think nonprofit work deals with this issue all the time. And when you have a socioeconomic divide, the people who have the time to volunteer should be out volunteering. But then it's just a matter of, yes, are they representing the voices of the people who do not have time to volunteer? Mm-hmm. And it's not going to be perfect as long as it's unpaid volunteer position. You're not necessarily going to get the people that I think what you're saying that we need to represent better. And I think it's just then a matter of making sure that we have people who can speak for the people who don't have time. We don't have time to do what we do. Mm-hmm. Which is why Susie's suggestion is a very good one.
Oh, you may not have seen that.
I did.
In the chat, sorry.
About alcohol.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I have talked to a number of people through my work. I was disappointed that none of them seem to have submitted an application. And in those conversations, some of what you said, Katie, came up, but I also spoke with people who would have added something different to this group, and they had the availability. And I'm just, yeah. I don't want to give up just yet, even if it's something that we have to build over time into the future, because I think about setting this board up for not July even, but for, you know, a year down the road for what we don't know yet.
No, I agree with you, and I think I could support it if it was a range and if we left it that quorum is majority as a board members without defining what the number of quorum is. But I think we would have to, for me to support it, it would have to be a little bit softer.
Does anyone know what the rules are?
Yeah, Susie had to break up a cat. So.
Yes, Susie may know, but outside of that, I have to look. I don't know if, you know, that's something that might be in a city charter or something that defines that. I don't know if you can have a range like that.
Who is the person that I can
City
ask
clerk.
for?
And we can add, like through Tracy, or you can ask. But I mean, we're happy to help. But I do know who to ask.
I also would be very curious to know that cat is giving me joy right
Oh, that was the fighter.
She was the one that was getting bullied.
Oh,
okay.
Yeah,
Okay, then we can flirt with this one. She's not that kind of.
She's a lover enough.
I'm also curious if there's a rule that a board member has to be 18 to be on this board.
That's a good question. When I worked in Englewood, I don't know about regular board members, but there was specifically a student liaison, and we recruit through the high school.
I've been talking to some other folks from other communities whose boards have youth members on
Yeah,
them.
that's basically what it was.
So, Jamie, one of the questions in the application says, have you been a voting member in Longmont for at least a year? So we would have to kind of figure out how to define the parameters differently for a team. But I think that's very interesting.
I feel like we did look into this at one point in the past.
This is why we need you.
Yeah. I mean, it's a vague memory, but when you said that about the application, it triggered something in my mind. because, yeah, I have a lot of students in the past who serve on like city advisory boards and, you know, some of them on the Longmont advisory board, teen advisory board or whatever. But I don't know, John, does the library already have a teen advisory board?
There is a teen, yeah, they're not called an advisory board, teen advisory group, it doesn't matter. Yeah, they had to, they weren't allowed to be called a board because, anyway, there's a teen group, yes, that's the point.
I wonder if they could be sort of like at least informally invited. I mean, they could always come as members of the public, but we could formalize. Were you? Okay. Yeah, we could maybe try and say like once a quarter or something, you know.
Yeah. Just like we do with the friends, where we just we're trying to kind of formalize getting together with them once every quarter or twice a year. If we do something like that with whomever is already on your team board, and just, I think, to Jamie's point about hearing more voices in a more formal method, I think that's a really good one.
Yeah.
I suspect that they're probably not allowed to be voting members of a board, since they cannot vote
Correct.
in elections yet. But but can we have them come once a quarter and just present to us and let them share their thoughts with us, like we did with the joint board meeting last week?
Right.
Yeah, or if like presenting is stressful or something, they could also just be invited to come and, you know, contribute in a more, you know, just sit in anytime, but maybe every so often they could do a presentation if they'd like. Some students like to present, you know, and they really enjoy that sort of platform. But also I wouldn't want to scare anyone away. I don't know, you know, what would appeal more, but we could maybe talk with them about what they would like too.
I do like this idea. It is another idea though. My understanding is that the teen council or whatever, they exist to advise the library.
Yes.
Whereas this exists to advise council. And so it might appeal to a different individual who wants to explore civic engagement a little bit more deeply. There was one woman I spoke to in particular. I think she's affiliated with CU, but she's also involved with a number of nonprofit boards, including one in Lafayette. And she had like a really articulate way of distinguishing between having a youth board and having youth on your board with adults, having it be intergenerational. It sounds like the voting requirement might be like a Longmont requirement. And so we would have to think about that, you know, think around that. But even to get some 18-year-olds, you know, 18 to 25 younger voices, it's tricky. I understand.
Does anybody know if you're allowed to just like post flyers at Front Range? Because I was over there voting the other day, and there were definitely people just like hanging around in like a student commons type area. Or if there's ever like an activities fair, I wonder if we could set up and, you know, just kind of like reach out through to the like, you know, 20-something set. I know community college is a wide range of people, but you know, it could also be like an important subset of the city that we don't have necessarily represented. And I live right there, so I could go poke around and ask a little bit. But I don't know anyone there. I once almost got approved to teach a class there, and then COVID happened. It fell apart, but I at least know the English department chair. So
I think there's definitely a way to get the messaging there. I'm more curious about like, what are our limitations as board members? Like, does everything have to go through official city channels, or are we allowed to make a flyer and that sort of thing?
I think if the city, so what I was going to ask Sandy, if there are flyers that we could create, maybe with a QR code that would link people directly to the application, that anyone as a citizen of Longmont can go and ask and distribute, put those flyers up
Right.
there. Capacity, I'm just, a volunteer or resident, and want to let folks know about these upcoming openings.
Yeah, that's something that would be really easy for me to help with. If we, decide that we want to open up and have 7 seats or a range of, if we decide that there's more options in 2025, I could certainly help with that. As a member of the public, I can do whatever I want.
Yes, you can.
And whether we move to a larger board or when that happens, I still think that we need to explore these creative ideas for filling vacancies, just to get the word out a little bit more widely, because not everyone that we would want to engage is necessarily visiting the city website looking for those opportunities. I believe the applicants that we have right now were either proactively seeking those opportunities, or they saw something in print or in the paper, I think, from the city. So yeah, I'm all for being a little innovative and finding out how to reach Longmont residents who care about the library and where they are, wherever they are. So maybe this is enough for tonight. For this question, it sounds like we need a bit more information. If we can't express our membership as a range, for example, then it's kind of back to the drawing board, it sounds like, for now. But I just wanted to float that idea and get everyone's initial impressions. If, all things being equal, a slightly larger number of folks sounds like it could be a good thing.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I would be in favor of it. I don't know if you want to put it to a vote right away just to see where everybody's at, or if you want to give people time to think about it.
I think
So we have to find out if it's a possibility.
Yeah, the vote would be are you okay with me pursuing this and getting more information? Because I'm not going to invest the time and effort if y'all are going to vote it down.
I'm always in favor of gathering information.
Okay. Thank you. So, the 2 openings that we have now, has everyone been able to look through those 3 applications?
4, 3 or 4.
So one was...
There were 4 initially, but one member, Barbara, did end up rescinding her application. So
Okay.
So the ask from this board is we need to make our recommendations to council, to the city. Who are we making recommendations?
Technically up to the council. It goes through the city clerk, but yes, it's being recommended to council.
By Friday. So,
Who interviewed them?
well, we haven't interviewed them yet.
Oh. Gotcha.
So we're looking for who's available. We're playing the game of who's available to interview virtually. 1 to 3 applicants between now and Friday. And do we have time slots already?
I do, yes. I have 2 members. Two members only have like one slot really that will work. So Wednesday, 12:30 between 12:30 and 2 p.m. For one of them, and then we have a slot from 4 to 5 on Wednesday, 4 to 5 p.m. And then a slot on Thursday, 3 to 5 p.m. And then a final slot, 3:30 to 5 p.m. for that same one.
Say the last one more time.
3:30 to 5 on Friday.
On
On
Friday.
what? On Friday? Oh, that's my best availability, but I have some availability on other days too.
And the interviews themselves are only 10, 15 minutes, right? For,
Yeah.
There were different lengths for different kinds of boards, but I think I read about 15 minutes for the advisory boards.
Wednesday midday works for me. What was the window? 12 to.
12:30 to 2, that one?
I think so, yeah. I think so. I'm gonna double check one other place, but.
And Katie, Nicole, if there are slots that you're available, you could just like let us know.
I can only do the Wednesdays, I think. I'm traveling for Thursday, Friday.
But both of those Wednesday slots could work?
Yeah, it'll be an interesting day, but yeah, I think I can do it. There might be a screaming
Yeah, I can
failure
make that
for one of them, but.
Oh, yeah, I'm good for 12:30 to 2 on Wednesday.
And any of the others, Kat? No.
No.
What about you, Katie?
Friday maybe, but I'm supposed to be subbing till 4, so
Okay.
if
If it's at
somebody needed
4:30.
to tag, if it was like a tag team situation, I might be able to help out like on the second half, like get back by 4:30, but I don't know how much that would help.
What were the times?
For which?
What were the times Thursday?
I-
and Friday?
Thursday 3 to 5 p.m., Friday 3:30 to 5 p.m.
There's also a time slot on Thursday morning, 9 to 9:30. That's really the only time that works for one applicant. So that one's pretty much locked in.
I'm in class all those times.
Okay, so there's one applicant who can only meet from 9 to 9:30 Thursday.
Correct.
Okay, I can make that work if nobody else can, just if that's the only time that they can meet, I guess.
I can do that one.
You can do it virtually, right?
Yes.
They will
That
be
helps.
virtual. They
That
will
helps.
be, yeah.
Right, because they have to be recorded, right?
Yeah, they will be on Zoom.
How are we providing our feedback after this?
Good question.
Especially if we're only meeting with one person each or something, like if not everyone's.
Right, that kind of makes it weird that we're not all.
Everyone's like this.
Well, if the Zoom is recorded, I guess we could all make sure that at least 2 people watch at least every interview. Even if one person has to like conduct it, on their own.
But since this group isn't meeting before Friday, how are we,
Can we make a Google form to fill out?
like a
Yeah.
vote by email?
Yeah, or just like, just whoever, we could sort of make a debrief form of some kind so that everybody could see the comments that whoever interviewed had. I don't know if a form is, because we can't email each other.
Right.
Can't email everybody.
Do those need to be made public?
If it's just 2 or less people, no. So, the easiest, it's not easy, the best way is to have the same 2 people do all the 3 interviews. Because then you can talk about them and make a recommendation on behalf of the board because if you bring in a third person, it constitutes a meeting and it has to be posted.
Right.
Yeah, so.
But that's at one time, right?
Yeah.
Don't we all have to vote on who our recommendation is that we're sending to council?
Or
Well,
we have
and just-
to agree
well-
that whoever's interviewing
Yeah,
has the authority to make recommendations.
correct. So if
Oh.
you can't participate, you could just assume that whoever is, or just
Ooh.
that it's the chair's decision. I mean,
But that's a big ask for 2 people to do all those time slots.
There's
It doesn't
there's
have to
three,
be.
10 to 15-minute interviews.
It's 3.
Oh,
Yeah, and will the interviews be on YouTube, or would we just be able to get a link for any of the interviews that one or the other of us couldn't attend? I mean, what are the options there? Since it sounds like who can do that Thursday morning one.
Well, I can.
How do we make sure that other?
Well, yeah, Nicole can do Thursday.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm available for all of them.
Okay.
well then Jamie, I nominate you to go to all of them.
Yeah. Second.
I don't want to
I
be
say that
alone.
But if you have one other person,
Yes.
if either
Yes.
Katie or I can do, I don't know when the other 2, if that Thursday morning is only one person, are the other 2, are either of them Friday?
Yes.
Okay.
One, that last afternoon, 3:30 to 5 p.m. slot, that's one slot for one of the applicants. She has a couple other potential options. So that last Friday, the 3:30 to 5, between that window.
It's in that window.
Okay,
Yes.
but could we do it with only Wednesday and Thursday and not Friday? Because I can make some of the Wednesday ones. I'm not sure, Katie, what other ones you could make.
I can make them. There's just some are more convenient than others.
Yeah, so that Thursday time slot for the one applicant is the only time slot that works for that person. So the Wednesday and Friday are for the other 2, essentially.
But the other 2 could both be on Wednesday and we could just not do
Yes.
the Friday one? Okay.
Yes, yes.
So then I could probably,
Yeah,
do
but-
all of them too, as long as they're not Friday.
Yeah.
Yes.
Or later on Thursday.
That'd be great, yeah. I think that's a great idea. I think especially because, Jamie is one of the longer tenured members and Nicole is the newest. I kind of like that perspective. If Nicole has the availability to do all of them too. What was that?
If I'm one of the longest, that's,
I said longer.
I know, but I just got here.
Well, then, if that works, you.
So should I not
It's fine. It's fine.
Should I not come then to that one because then it turns it into a meeting?
I think for the interviews, it's okay. I was just saying any conversation after.
Yeah.
So anybody could come to the interviews.
Oh,
I
okay.
just think as interviews go, you probably want 2 or more.
Like, we can't schedule a Zoom meeting for all of us to come together after the interviews and discuss.
Right.
Because that
Got
would
it.
Right,
Then that's a
but-
meeting. Yeah.
But if multiple of us were to come to the interviews, we could just kind of email Jamie our impressions singularly.
Yes.
That's not.
Okay, so we can just get invited to all of them on Zoom and then attend the ones that we can, knowing that at least
Yeah.
2 people will be there. Oh, okay.
I think that works. And then we know it's going to be the Wednesday slots and Thursday morning.
Love it.
And if they meet our recommendation by Friday, probably getting rid of that 3 to 5 slot on Friday evening is probably not very ideal anyway. Because that even doesn't give enough time for Jamie for us to email Jamie, for Nicole and Jamie to chat. I mean, there's just not enough time there.
Yeah.
So I think if we could get rid of that Friday slot is probably better logistically too.
Sorry, I'm laughing.
I know.
I'm supposed to be reading right now.
She's reading our minds.
Were we supposed to say anything about the applications at this time, or just the logistics of, these are all viable applicants, they all come with different strengths and backgrounds, and they're all deserving of an interview, so we figured out the logistics of the interviews, and
think that's all you need to do in this case.
Yeah,
Yeah.
okay. Then we can consider this agenda item done. Thank you. As always, I'm really appreciative of this group's just willingness to be straight and forthcoming and say what is needed and point out what is a question or a concern, and just appreciate that we can work together that honestly and just figure out our challenges. Good. So I wanted to have something on the agenda to not go over the election results in specific, but really just to have a space for questions, thoughts, concerns, or ideas around how we might imagine the potential impact as it pertains to the library and our work together moving into 2025. What are things that we need to tune into, maybe look at more closely, anticipate in terms of proposed legislation or input from the community. It could be things that even, I'm curious whether you or staff are hearing or experiencing anything in these first couple of weeks that are giving you a glimpse of what might be around the corner for the library. So not really much more formed than that, but if you find your thoughts about library advocacy shifting somewhat, it would be interesting to hear.
I mean, hopefully local and state politics are going to be insulated a little bit from the vagaries of whatever's happening at the federal level. But I definitely think it may embolden certain sectors of our community who have attitudes or agendas that might be at odds with some of the values of our library and our city as a whole.
Anything on your radar, John?
I think that's a very valid point. I think, at the federal level, the thing that certainly is concerning is things like IMLS, which is Institute of Museum and Library Services, which the state library here gets much of their funding through. In the last, from 2016 to 2020, that was also a threat that might go away, and ended up not. But I can see that resurfacing. So that could impact things like we get a grant from the state library pretty much every year that's been going on, and that's through IMLS funding. We get about a little over $27,000 a year to spend on collections because of that, so that's a big chunk of money.
Yeah.
There's plenty of other things at the state library level, but that's something that directly impacts us and other things that the state library does. So that's something I, kind of watch. I think that I have heard from some other director colleagues that are in library districts in some ultra conservative communities in Colorado that are already facing some real threats of certain people trying to get on their board of trustees and start to change things right now that fit more within that model. And as you point out, Kat, that could be perceived as threats to what our values are. So, I'm saying that because I'm grateful for the structure we have currently and the board we have here, and I mean, we certainly have to continue to advocate. That's never going to change. I think that the challenges we have, which is primarily, advocacy and funding, won't change. I don't know that anything at that level is going to really affect that here, So I think the work we do is the same. The work this board do and the library does is the same.
I saw maybe a little bit irrelevant, but I saw a lot of kind of chatter about panic about, oh, I need to go and buy all of these books in various circles of mine that were just basically oh, they're going to take away and I think the one interesting thing that came out of a lot of those conversations was this idea of for example, when access to abortions was reversed, and especially in Texas and stuff, a lot of communities, doctors, and for example, before even getting some kind of law or legal challenge or punishment for performing these things, would stop providing services to their community before there was even a kind of threat. And I think that would be potentially one thing to watch out for, to be concerned about, is making sure that the library is not anticipating any threats from any changes that happen before there's actually an actual threat, if that makes sense.
It does, yeah. I think you have to be aware but not overreact, and know your community too. I mean, those voices that are out there that maybe more on the the pro-censorship side kind of stuff. We've been very fortunate here. We haven't had a lot of, and that's true a lot in this area, a lot along the front range, really. So it's, that kind of thinking isn't prevalent here, and I don't know that this, I think as a state, Colorado's in a good position, but it's also, you can't be blind. You can't just turn an eye to it and just assume everything's going to be fine, because you don't know. And I'll say it's easy in a conversation like this to maybe get too in the weeds, but the one thing that for me that I will pay attention to is the whole Project 2025. There's some real concerning things in there that does affect libraries and education, and that's something that is pretty concerning to me. That people could start advocating and pushing for, and trying to get some of those agenda items through.
So
go ahead.
Okay, thanks. So I just wanted to chime in a little bit in what I saw at the National League of Cities, among different municipalities across the nation. The biggest concern is what's going to happen to the federal funding. So being cognizant of if they cut departments, or if they cut kind of those more programs that would be deemed, socialist, that reach the greater masses and are free, and those always run the risk of being first to be cut. So looking at how we can have a structure where we're cognizant of that, finding other ways to offset those impacts. I think I don't think the threat, I feel like we should just continue doing what we're doing.
Yeah.
There are other things, and now more than ever, do we need to have a strong library in the sense of providing resources. So I had just, right before coming on to this one, I had a union seminar where we were discussing discrimination and knowing your rights. I'm getting already a lot of questions around, I work at a Title I school. The majority of my kids are immigrant students. And this whole fear of mass deportations, what's going to happen? Well, there are rights that any human being has, and once you step foot on this soil, you are under those rights. So getting the word out and we might have to be that conduit to residents where we have a boardroom or one of the workrooms open, connecting with Intercambio or El Comité to do a Know Your Rights training or some kind of workshop there. I've gone to the library several times with El Comité doing documentation for citizenship.
Yeah.
So having those doors open for people to get the information they need and access to computers. So I feel for us, we just keep doing what we're doing and being mindful of what's happening around us and filling those needs as they start happening. So that's
excellent. Thanks.
Yeah, definitely. John, I don't know if you want to answer this or not, but do you feel like should an issue arise, like the city has your back? Like the city, because I know the buck kind of stops with you, right, in terms of the process for how people, challenge a book or whatever. So do you feel like, in conversations you've had, the city council is aligned with, what I think our board is in alignment about?
I do. I do feel confident with that and with the city leadership as well. And, the city too, within the city, there's a lot of work, equity work being done. There's staff positions that are focused on that. And I think a lot of the things that I think we're kind of thinking of that Susie brought up are all equity issues. And I think the city, I feel confident they're not going to stand for things that are not equitable. And therefore would have my back because neither will I. So I think we're in alignment there. I feel pretty good about that.
Great to hear.
Yeah.
I do expect that in the new year, as in 2020, the library as an essential service will become more apparent.
Yeah.
That layer of who the library is and the role that it serves in the community, will perhaps stand out as less recreational the way that it did in 2020. We will be very aware of how needed it is on so many levels.
Well, this has come up here before about these essential, and actually this, I don't want to put this to bed if it's not ready. This actually leads very well into the next agenda topic of strategic planning, actually. But if we're not ready to move on, I'm not the one to move the agenda. That's your job.
I don't want to disrupt the flow.
Okay. So, when we talk about essential, so the old business is the library strategic plan update, which I wanted to give you all an update of where we are as staff as we continue to work through this. But, even from the beginning of it and what's apparent to me, and now even just hearing this conversation too, there's a lot of aspects I see coming in the plan that really talk about the essential nature of the library and being kind of the place for many things. And so kind of bringing all this together, like with, where can people go for information and help, in this environment that we're in and what we're all looking towards, which may bring a real need for people to get services or information. We're going to be maybe even more essential than I feel that we are now. And so you'll see that reflected as we continue to work through the strategic plan. Right now, the current status of it, we had this retreat a while ago, and then as the leadership team meets, we meet every other week, we talk through it, and we have formulated a new mission statement for the library. We are working through a vision statement and value statements currently. And I think, so far from the work we've done as a group, I feel really good about what's coming out, and it's very strong language, a lot of it about being essential and leaders in this community, the library being a leader. Not passive, not recreation. It's extremely important, and I think a lot of language in those values you'll see, and I'll be sharing that obviously with the board as we have things formalized along the way. But that's where we're at now, and as we talk as a group about those, I'm kind of piecing together that retreat where we came up with main themes and thinking about how that's going to work into a plan of probably 5 kind of core concepts, which would be right now, I think, is programming, services, resources, and literacy would be our big kind of key concepts that then, of course, within there would have goals and initiatives that carry us through the next 5 years and what that looks like. So just to give you an update, and nothing real concrete there, but we're making progress, and I believe by maybe the end of the year, or at least sometime in January, we'll have it more formalized. I'll present it here, and then it will be our 2025 to 30 plan. But the word essential is in the new mission statement.
And you said that's been formally adopted?
By the group, yeah.
By the group?
By the leadership team. I don't see any changes to it, so I can actually bring that forward. I was just kind of waiting for the other aspects of those bigger concepts with the core values, and then kind of bring it as a package here and kind of talk through it. As you all might know, Jamie participated in the retreat to represent the board and the community, and also did extra work to help formulate that mission statement. So I liked that aspect, not just for Jamie's input, but to have the board, effectively the board's input in the community in that mission statement. I mean, that's what it means, but we'll still bring that back here. But of course I want staff buy-in, and to feel behind that, you have to have that right. Anyone knows that. So at least in our discussions and what we came up with, I can just sense a real energy behind it. And it's just a very powerful mission statement that's much more almost aggressive in nature compared to what we have.
Bold.
Bold is a better
Yeah.
word. That's nice.
Oh, I like aggressive. Stick with that.
Yeah, you do, Kat.
Yeah, I think you'll like it, Kat. And actually, maybe in December, since that sounds like that will be your last time, that'll be a good time to share it. So that's my update on the strategic plan.
Has any of those strategic planning conversations are they being revisited through the lens of what the next administration might bring in?
Not specifically, but I even just in this conversation, me reflecting on what's there, I think it's just extremely relevant. It just kind of worked out that way.
Me too. I harbor serious fears for the federal level of things, and I'm very grateful that we live in a state and in a city that has the protections in place for our access to information, and the way the libraries are allowed to be here. It was very disheartening going into the weekend. I'm just on my phone and start seeing posts on social media from a group called Parasol Patrol. They are a group of volunteers who will go to events like Drag Story Time, and they will encircle the performers and the children and protect them with these rainbow parasols.
Oh, I know that.
From any protesters who
Yep.
are being disruptive.
Yep.
And similar, if you're familiar with the angels who go where the Westboro Baptist Church protesters might go, and with their wings they shield. I think it's mourners at a funeral, typically, from just hateful things. So yeah, the call went out from the local Boulder Parasol Patrol that there was a story time scheduled for Saturday at the Boulder Library, and based on the comments that were being left on their promotional posts, meaning the library's posts, based on the comments, they were calling like all hands on deck. We're expecting, we might get nobody, but people are being very, very free and overt in their threats. And I was not able to go, but I felt like I saw it twice in my feed, and I was like, oh, I really wish I could go, and I want to follow up and find out how it went. Because maybe that's my naivete in thinking that that was not necessarily a big problem in Boulder.
Yeah, well, that's a good example of what I was alluding to earlier of I feel confident, but we can't take things for granted. Which is always been the case.
I feel confident, but so do a lot of other people.
Yes.
That's what I meant when I said people might be emboldened too. I would be very curious too if the people coming to protest are local, because I think sometimes communities that are known to be, whatever you want to say, less hateful, at least overtly hateful, they may be targets for out-of-towners, to make a statement. So we might come up against that too if we're known as sort of a haven of acceptance, God forbid.
You want to just go right into your director's report?
Yeah, actually, I don't have anything additional for my director report this morning.
Oh, okay. Friends of the Library. So last month we had a lovely conversation in a larger room in lieu of the joint meeting of the boards. It was basically the Friends meeting agenda, their board meeting, and then we got to ask questions and share comments and learn more about each other. It was a good conversation. They are definitely moving forward in terms of thinking about how to be more efficient in their operations, how to increase both membership and revenue in some more out-of-the-box ways, thinking about events. And I think it's just a very real question what the capacity is for this group of volunteers to do more than it's already doing. They're also looking at ways of just doing what they do more efficiently and effectively. So their next book sale will be, I think it starts on December 11th. It's in there. It starts on the Wednesday, wherever. Yeah, December 11th through the 14th. And I think they're adding a couple of elements to try and boost membership, people signing up for memberships. They're expanding the membership model to offer more options and more incentives and more opportunities for engagement with their members, and also just promotional marketing ideas for selling more books and some library branded merchandise, things of that nature. So I do hope that we can revisit the joint board idea in the spring. And yeah, if there's anyone who you know in your network who you think would be maybe a better fit for that volunteer group, I know that they could use some new members who really want to do stuff. So they're looking for people, volunteers to help with social media and event planning and maybe some more fundraising. Katie, you were there. I know you didn't hear a whole lot because of the way it just worked out. But yeah, do you have any thoughts or reflections from what you did experience?
I think they're a very impressive group. And doing a lot. And I actually at times had moments where I was worried about potential burn. Because I think they're actually already like pushing hard. I think that they're a very impressive group. I think what they're doing is remarkable. Yeah, I was impressed with that.
I do think that I've just heard in little bits that since getting more attention in the local media and winning the award and so forth, they are starting to hear more from more people who want to get involved, and I hope that just continues to build momentum.
Yeah, because I think that's what it would take. I think that group is already like pedal to the metal the whole way. I think it would take new people to kind of do much more because they're so successful with what they're doing right now. And I feel the hours of work that they're already putting in. I can feel it. I think it would take new people to come in and kind of take on some other things if the direction they wanted to go. I think it would start with recruitment of the right talent.
Well, I just want to say I'm sorry that I had to cancel last minute and that meeting didn't work out. I apologize.
No apologies necessary. You have to do what you have to do and take care of yourself. And it was still a great conversation. We weren't going to make any decisions or vote on anything, but I feel like the connection, the seed was planted in the same way that I had intended. So hopefully future conversations will just be that much easier because we all are comfortable around each other now. Susie, would you like to give an update from council?
Sure. So tomorrow we're going to be having a discussion on the airport. So we've been hearing a lot of complaints. There's been a lot more airplane activity. I don't know if you all have noticed or heard it or been impacted. And primarily around the touch and goes. They come and they land for a bit and then they go back up. We have some airplane schools that are operating out of our airport, so that's increased the activity. So I feel like, and I had asked the advisory board as well as staff to come to speak and let's have a discussion. But what are we having to really look at building some guardrails and policy and practices in place to kind of help facilitate, because in the way the bylaws are written, or it's really up to the pilot to be mindful of their surroundings. So it's really putting the onus on the pilot to be courteous, be a good neighbor, and from what we're hearing from residents and what we're observing is that's not really happening. So We're gonna have a discussion on that tomorrow. I'm trying to think, there was something else. No, we're gonna have a discussion. We have one of our council members who's joining virtually. And a couple of times she has come back out and it hasn't had a really good interaction with public. So I think, you know, our mayor has asked us to act on, you know, what can we do? We have to police ourselves. We have to hold each other accountable. So we're going to have a discussion on that as well. So it'll be a lively, it's going to be a lively meeting tomorrow. And I was gone last week because I had come out. I'm part of the Hispanic Elected Leaders Council, HELO, as well as REAL, the Racial Equity and Leadership Council. So we had our meetings before the actual conference started. So I had to leave, I had to fly out a day earlier than the rest. And so I wasn't there the last Tuesday. And then the Tuesday before that was elections. So, you know, I feel like, oh, it's been a while. I'm gonna have to jump back into the swing of things. But yeah, I think those would be our two biggest topics right now. I'm looking at that. And then we continue to look at land code and what kind of adjustments we need to be making to land code to address current need and making sure that we're up to date with our policies and practices. So yeah, that's what I have. If anyone has any questions for me, though.
Do you anticipate that that position is going to be open then in 2025? Because that's my ward.
Oh, okay, yeah. Well, her term is up in 2025. So I think, you know, as far as council, so we cannot boot her off of council before her term is up. However, we can, we have the authority, you know, when we're holding each other accountable, is we can say, you know, you can no longer participate in your boards and commissions or, you know, your council seats. Although she cannot, I know we've given her the date, I think it's the 12th of December. I can't remember off the top of my head now, but I do know that if she cannot come back, we're going to stop doing virtual for her. So if she's unable to come back, she will have to vacate her seat.
That was my question because I had heard that, so I wasn't sure. Like I heard there was kind of an ultimatum.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because we can't keep doing the online. I know, you know, if COVID had never happened,
right.
You know, virtual would not have been an option.
No, I think everyone was understanding up to a point, right? And then it becomes just like, are you able to do your job? And
are you able to do your job?
Yeah.
And be here for the residents? Yeah.
Right. Myself included. Okay. Well, I will keep an eye on that then. And also, is it like a public censure process, or is it just like taking away responsibilities?
It's more like that censure. Yeah, I was looking for that word. I'm really tired.
No, I only know because I've been studying for a legal ethics exam, and one of the bad things that happen to you is you can get censured.
It was like, you know, the thing where she's not allowed to do that because we said so. Yes, that's it. Yeah.
Well,
that's all I have.
Is that meeting open to the public, or is that?
Yes, it'll happen during our council meeting.
On what date?
Well, tomorrow the airport. I don't know if the mayor's going to bring it up tomorrow.
Okay.
But we did get email of so we had some reading.
Like this
watch, yes.
So it'd be like the 7 o'clock meeting.
Yes, yeah, regular session.
Okay, thank you.
Any news from the library profession? Connected to the library profession?
Well, I already brought up, you know, during our conversation about post-election and some of the districts and their board of trustees, you know, just something that I've become aware of and paying a little bit of attention to. Also in Denver, and this was in large part led by library staff in Denver, but one of the initiatives, I think, that passed in the city was that they're allowed to form a union now. The library class, some of the classifications, the non-professional classifications in the library, but it's throughout the city. Again, I don't know what that means. It's just kind of watching those things. And if you find yourself in the city of Denver downtown with some extra time, you might make your way into the Central Library. They just finished a renovation that took at least 4 to 5 years or more to complete, and it's pretty phenomenal in their sense. So if you kind of like checking out libraries, like, you know, stop in there and look at its, you know, the main like atrium. It's pretty phenomenal. Some of these big urban libraries are pretty amazing. So that's kind of what I have on mine for library profession. Others might have stuff.
Ray of Sunshine, Jane Clerk. Has everybody seen the New York Times article from end of October?
Yeah.
Halloween, librarians face a crisis of violence and abuse. New York Times. Probably should be as close to required reading as I feel comfortable suggesting, but very sad. And again, it's not necessarily things that are, you know, blindsiding, brand new, out of nowhere, but the uptick, the intensification, the mainstream of it all is concerning.
Can you share the date of the article so that it's in the minutes?
It's Halloween, October 31st.
Okay.
And you can also listen to the article. But, you know, talking about the collective trauma of librarians, it's sort of like same tone that we talk about,
Right.
you know, folks working in emergency response and healthcare and other areas. It's, you know, again, with the essentialness. Thank you, librarians. Shouldn't, you know, never thought of these occupational hazards when I was growing up and, you know, attending story times and looking at my librarians like, what do you do? You know, read books like, could there be a safer job? It's pretty eye-opening. Anyway, I didn't get Tracy the link early enough to include with the packet. So
That's okay. In part, that's why I asked for the date.
look it up. Yeah.
You know, so if you don't have your own access, your library card here gets you access, in case you didn't know that, or needed a reminder. So
Thank you, library. That's all.
Are we allowed to have like a Google Drive where we can like just share documents or have like a folder?
We talked about that.
yeah, this came up a while ago, and
Yeah.
I think we couldn't have that.
Right.
Yeah.
We could have
Do you remember,
something
Tracy?
somewhere.
You know, for sure, because anything that's like an official document needs to be a public document, and Google Drive would not be public.
You know, I have a question or a thought. Would this be, you know, on the city or on the library website that has like a little link of the library advisory board resources? And then those articles could be in there, but they're also accessible to anybody who goes on that website.
That could be done.
Okay. That's my suggestion.
Yeah, no, that's a good one.
Who do we talk to?
I don't know.
Well,
Sandy? I always go to Sandy.
Well, but
If I don't know anything, I'll go to Sandy.
on the city website, you're talking about like on the board and commission pages that they all have? Or no? Or are you talking about
I'm
like
talking about the library website.
Oh, well then that's just me.
Okay.
I mean, because we have a staff person that manages the website, so
Okay.
you know, it would
Okay.
just be a matter of
Yeah.
you know, working with her to get, you know, any links or things that we want on there, like create like a resources section under that.
Yeah, from your library advisory board,
Yeah.
here's some recommended reading or
Yeah.
seen articles.
I mean, the thing about that, which I'm all for, is to make sure it's always fresh and doesn't get stale. You know, so an article, you know, if you start doing that and you have an article from 30 years ago, it's like, well, I mean, maybe if it's relevant, but you know, people can tell if you're not updating things like that. But that would be the only thing I'd say. But I think there's enough conversation here and things that come out that it would keep it updated.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if this, I'm leaving, so I hate to make a suggestion like this, but that could also be like an assignment, like, you know, bring an article and then it just gets posted, so there's something fresh going up every month. You know, I can still contribute. I promise I won't just assign, I won't.
Are you in education, giving out homework? I like
That's a
it.
good idea.
I
That
almost suggested a Google Classroom page for us to use, but then I thought that really might be showing my.
I like that the idea of something like this also maybe it enhances the visibility of this board and its work a little bit.
Yeah.
And if we can put like a little link or a little pretty graphic at some point to connect over to the, you know, applications for the board, you know, it could be like another just space to reach people.
Correct.
Thank you. So, here we are at second to last meeting. Are there any comments from this board before we adjourn?
I'm always on the scheduling thing.
Yeah.
But, I know the January and the February meeting are supposed to be on long weekends, which I know is like a Monday night, so potentially fine with everyone. It's fine with me, but it
Do
might
we
not be
want to
fine
look
with
at those
everybody.
dates real quick? And just,
I actually,
Yeah.
I don't know if we can meet on a city holiday, can we?
No, I think
I don't think we can.
we can't. If it's on a Monday, and that happens here throughout the year, we have to reschedule it.
so,
We have
yeah,
two of those then.
Yeah, probably we do. It usually happens.
this is
Good
feeling
catch.
like deja vu.
Yeah. So
We did this
January
last year.
20th can't be on the 20th.
Correct. So last year, or last time this came up, we chose like the week before or the week after.
Either way,
Friends,
it's whatever the board decides.
you can do either. Katie, can you do the 13th or the 27th? Is one preferable to you?
Oh my gosh. I'd say the 13th of January is probably better.
Is better.
Yeah. Oh, is better.
Yeah. I'd like to.
And I have no preference. February.
Oh, okay. Let's do January and then we'll jump to February. I'll move that we meet on January the 13th. Somebody second.
Oh, second.
Okay, it's done. And then February, same question. The easiest thing would be for us to meet either the 10th or the 24th. Katie Weiser,
No preference.
no preference. So your preference is the 24th? Okay, you win. That means a slightly longer month in between January and February, just to notice. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 weeks.
Shorter
fine.
than the one before, so it works out.
And when are the Friends meetings again?
They are the week after us, so they're the 4th
Wednesday.
Wednesday of the month at 6 p.m.
Okay. And are they virtual or they're in person?
They are in person. They don't do any virtual.
Okay. Okay. But they meet at the library.
Yes, in this very room.
So if we
Good
wanted,
vibes.
if we wanted to, that February, because we're meeting the same week that they are, if we wanted to see if we could line up a February, we could do that.
We could, I think the request from them was to wait until later in the spring. When do their next sale is in March.
March.
Maybe March and May.
They probably want to do it in April, maybe. I don't know. Nothing was said except for spring, but it's a good point. But
It is, I don't know. It doesn't throw our rhythm off in meeting before their meeting, though. Not that that is tremendously important. Alright. So our next meeting is December 16th. Hopefully we can all make it in person, and I'll follow up with you, Kat, just to confirm what that looks like. And we will adjourn at 8:49 p.m. Thank you.